Chapter 5, Soldiers of Defense. In last class, we discussed that some pathogens enters through the wound, and so that the white blood cells reaches at the wound site and they engulf and destroy the germs or pathogens. So how this process takes place, how these white blood cells are enabled to engulf and destroy those pathogens or the germs. So this is done by phagocytosis. So this engulfing and destroying process takes place by phagocytosis. So what is phagocytosis? It is the process of engulfing and destroying the pathogens by white blood cells. This process is known as phagocytosis. And the cell, we know that the white blood cells are normally engulfing the pathogens and destroying them. So those cells which engulf the bacteria and destroy the germs are known as phagocytes. What is that? Phagocytes. Here, the term phago means to engulf, and cytes or site means cell. So, the cells or the white blood cells which engage in engulfing and destroying the pathogens are known as phagocytes. And the term phago means to engulf, and the term cyte means cell. Monocytes and neutrophils are the white blood cells that engages in phagocytosis. Now we shall learn how the phagocytosis process takes place. So just consider this is a white blood cell. When a pathogen, so this is a pathogen, and we know that the pathogen reaches the wound site, or it tries to enter through the wound sites into the body. So when the pathogen enters through the wound site into the body, the white blood cells engulf the pathogen. So here you can see this is the white blood cell, and this white blood cell engulf the pathogen into a membranous sac. So here you can see the pathogen is inside the membranous sac. Then after that, what happens? Let us find out. So, inside the white blood cell, there will be lysosome, which consists of some enzymes. In the next stage, the lysosome combines with the membranous sac in which the pathogen is present. Then after that, what happens? So this is the pathogen, and there will be lysosome, and it starts to destroy the germ or the pathogen, and finally the pathogen got completely destroyed or degenerated by the lysosome or the enzymes present in the lysosome. So let us learn it once more step by step. First, you can see this is a white blood cell, and this is the pathogen. We know that the pathogen tries to enter into the body through the wounds. So this is a pathogen, and this is the white blood cell. Then the white blood cells engulfs the pathogens just like this into a membranous sac. So inside the white blood cell, there will be lysosome. Lysosome consists of some enzymes. Then in the next stage, what happens is, you can see the membrane. This is the membrane which consists of the pathogen, and this is the lysosome. So both the lysosome and the membranous sac mix together. And in next stage, you can see the lysosome starts to destroy the germ. And finally, the lysosome completely destroys or degenerate the germ or pathogen. So this process is known as phagocytosis. So children, when a wound occurs, the pathogens tries to enter through the wound. And in such situation, we have already studied that the white blood cells attacks them and engulf and destroy the pathogens by the process of phagocytosis. Then at the next stage, the blood should be stopped. This is the next defense mechanism, that is blood clotting. So how this blood clotting takes place? Let us find out. So when a wound occurs on our body, we know that as a result of that wound, the tissues in this wounded region get destroyed. And these tissues get converted into an enzyme which is known as thromboplastin. Then what is the role of this enzyme thromboplastin? Thromboplastin converts the prothrombin in our plasma into thrombin. So plasma, we already know that the blood consists of plasma and blood cells, which we have already studied in 9th standard. So this plasma consists of prothrombin. So this thromboplastin enzyme, which is formed by the degeneration of tissues on the wounded site, converts the prothrombin in our plasma into thrombin. So what happens in the first stage of blood clotting? I already told you that when a wound occurs on our body, the tissues in this region get damages, and this damaged tissues degenerates and it forms into an enzyme which is known as thromboplastin. So thromboplastin is an enzyme. Then this enzyme converts the prothrombin in our plasma into thrombin. Then what happens in the next stage? Let us find out. So in the second stage of blood clotting, what happens is the thrombin formed here converts the fibrinogen into fibrin fibers. So what is fibrinogen? We already studied in 9th standard while learning about the blood. We studied that fibrinogen are the proteins which are present in the plasma, or the protein molecules present in the plasma, which helps in blood clotting. We already studied in 9th standard. So the thrombin which is formed here converts the fibrinogen into fibrin fibers. So some fibers forms on this wounded site. Then what happens is the red blood cells and platelets get entangled in this fibrin fibers. So the third stage is that the red blood cells and platelets get entangled in the fibrin fibers, and as a result the blood clot is formed. Then what is the need of blood clotting? I already told you that blood clotting is also a defense mechanism. How it becomes a defense mechanism? If blood clotting does not take place, the blood continuously flows and finally it may lead to a bleeding condition, and we may lose a huge quantity of blood from our body, and this is dangerous to our life. And if blood clot occurs on our wounded site, the pathogens will not be able to enter into the body. And we know that some wounds leave some scar on this wounded part after healing, but some other wounds does not leave any scar after healing. What may be the reason for this? Normally we know that the first step after getting wounded, or when a body part get wounded, the first step is inflammatory response, and after that blood clotting. So these are the steps. Then the third stage is healing of the wound. So in the third stage or in the healing stage, new similar tissues forms on our wounded site. New similar tissues forms on our wounded site. And if this happens, it will not remain any scar, or it will not leave any scar on this wounded part. But in some situations, new similar tissues will not form. And in this situation, for healing process, the connective tissue helps in healing. And this results in a wound scar on our wounded site. So this is the reason for formation of wound scars in some cases, and in some other cases, the wounds will not remain or will not leave any wound scars. Then the next defense mechanism in our body is fever. How? We know that when a wound occurs on our body, the pathogens tries to enter through the wound site, and these pathogens produces some toxins, and these toxins stimulates the white blood cells. We already studied all these things while learning about inflammatory response. So the white blood cells get stimulated and it produces some chemicals. So these chemicals raises our body temperature. And when the body temperature raises, what happens is it prevents the multiplication of pathogens or the germs, and also it increases the phagocytosis process. So fever is not a disease, but it is a symptom which helps us to know that some disease causing pathogens enters into our body. In fever, we know that the temperature rises in our body. What is the normal temperature of our body? We know that it is 37 degrees Celsius, or in Fahrenheit that is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. This is the normal body temperature. And if the temperature rises above the normal body temperature, we call it as fever. Even though it is a symptom, in some situations we have to take medicine for fever. It is because in some situations the infections become uncontrollable and the temperature in our body rises up. It is saying that we have to take medical assistance, or we have to take medicine for fever, because if the body temperature persists for a long time, it affects some of our internal organs and it is dangerous to our life. So children, till now we discussed about non-specific defense mechanism. Non-specific defense mechanism means it is a general defense mechanism in our body. It is not for a particular pathogen. It is generally for all pathogens, such as fever or increasing of body temperature, then inflammatory responses. All these defense mechanisms are non-specific, which means it is not for a particular pathogen. It is general for all pathogens. But there are specific defense mechanism. In specific defense mechanism, the defense mechanism identifies the pathogens individually or separately. We know that not only a single type of pathogen enters into our body. There are numerous pathogens or disease causing microorganisms are there in our surroundings. And the pathogen for a particular disease is not the same for another disease, isn't it? They are different. So different types of pathogens may enter into our body. But in specific defense mechanism, it identifies the pathogens which is also known as antigen. Pathogen which is also known as antigen. Pathogen enters into our body and it stimulates the defense mechanism in our body, isn't it? So this pathogen is also known as antigen. So in specific defense mechanism, It identifies the pathogen or antigen specifically. It identifies its structure, its characteristics, all these specific features, and specifically it destroys that particular pathogen or the antigen. The lymphocyte cells helps in specific defense mechanism. So in specific defense mechanism, lymphocytes are the cells that helps in specific defense mechanism, and it is of two types. Which are they? T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So lymphocytes are of two types. We already know that lymphocyte is a white blood cell, and this lymphocyte are again of two types. Which are they? T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So this T lymphocytes matures from the bone marrow, and this T lymphocytes matures in the thymus gland. So T thymus gland, we can connect it with this T lymphocyte thymus gland, and the B lymphocytes matures from the bone marrow. So we can connect it with this B bone marrow. So let us remember just like that. T lymphocytes matures from the thymus gland and B lymphocytes matures from the bone marrow.